Bonjour. Moi reme Haiti. Good morning. I love Haiti. Unfortunately, that love began 4 years ago with a terrible tragedy. January 2010, when that earthquake killed over 200,000 people, devastated Port-au-Prince and surrounding communities. I remember watching the footage from the news. I remember seeing footage of a little girl that was sleeping on the streets of Port-au-Prince at night because she didn't know if her family was dead or alive. I felt so helpless. I wanted to do something but didn't know how. I'm blessed that I teach at Avondale High School, a place with some amazing teachers and some incredible students who don't do charity. They truly believe that they can change the world. They believe impossible is nothing. They've learned to not be self-centered, but they've learned to be others-centered. And after that earthquake, a small group of them said, we're going to raise $10,000 in 10 days. I was pretty freaked out by that because that's a crazy amount of money. But I've learned not to question them, and I've learned to move. We ended up raising over $14,000 in 10 days. Then the question became, what do we do with that money? After tragedies like this, so often money gets wasted and ends up in the wrong pockets, and sometimes people just throw money at the problem. We didn't want to do that. We wanted our kids to understand that they needed to have a sustainable relationship. We wanted them to be able to see that out of the tragedy, that they could take people out of tents and move them into homes. And that's what we did. And in the last 4 years, we've taken 4 families and built homes for them in Haiti. Our kids have been able to be part of that. Our kids have been able to have a sustainable relationship with a community where they went from digging the footings to homes to being part of those homes going up and connecting with those families still today. And when our kids see the impact that they can have on the world, they want to continue to move, and that inspires other people to move. 4 years ago, about the time of the earthquake, I started asking myself some tough questions. Where is my true heart? Where is my true passion? Am I meant to inspire others, or am I meant to go myself? Those are tough questions. You better be willing to deal with whatever comes next if you decide you're going to push your chips all in and say, I'm going to go in whatever direction that takes me. For so long, I had been held back by obstacles, but it was my wife and my then 15-year-old daughter who inspired me to move. My 15-year-old daughter, then 15-year-old daughter, who's now 18, is a warrior. She's a voice for the voiceless. I remember her coming home, talking to me one day with tears streaming down her face, saying, Dad, there are 146 million orphans in the world. What are we doing about it? The reality was, my heart was the same as hers, but I was too scared to verbalize it. I didn't know what to do about that reality. I had 3 kids, wonderful family. I didn't have room for any more. Once we got past 2, I thought that number was crazy. But when she started a conversation, for me, adoption was something that people did when they couldn't have any children of their own. We didn't have any room in our house. We didn't have the means to adopt any children. But I had to see through the lives of some friends of mine when they stepped out in faith and doors opened in amazing ways and provision came, that even if they didn't have the means, if they moved in the right direction, things could happen. And they inspired me to move. My daughter was also the one who came home from church one day, threw a missions brochure on my bed and said, Dad, when are we going? And I said, honey, every time you're available, I'm not. Every time I'm available, you're not. I don't know what to do. But when your 15-year-old daughter comes to you and says, Dad, I want to take a missions trip with you, number 1, your heart melts. And number 2, you find a way to make that happen. But as I contemplated that, I thought of my students. I teach high school in a public school. I tell my kids all the time, I teach current issues. I tell them, you live in a bubble. Your world is so small. You don't understand that your normal is not normal, that we are blessed in so many ways. I thought about all the kids that have incredible hearts, just like my daughter, and the ability to serve that might not have the same avenue. My daughter might have that avenue through a church missions trip, but what about my kids that wouldn't have that opportunity? I started thinking crazy thoughts. What if I could take public high school kids to serve in Haiti? And that started a crazy journey. In August of 2010, I took my first trip down to Haiti. I flew solo that time. But from the time I got out of the airport, the question was, would I feel comfortable bringing my own daughter here? Because if I wouldn't bring my daughter, there's no way I was going to bring anybody else's child. I returned from that trip absolutely convinced that I was bringing kids back to Haiti. And Thanksgiving of 2010, we brought our first team down to Haiti. But it was on that trip that I also dealt with another piece of my heart. And that was that reality of orphans. I visited a number of different orphanages in Haiti. I saw these amazing children with beautiful faces and bright smiles, despite the horrible circumstances they were living in. But it was an orphanage in Barbancourt, Haiti, that forever changed my life. You see, in this orphanage, we went there, and I saw this little girl with orangish red hair from malnutrition. So frail, so lifeless, so sad. So desperate that we brought her back to the local mission to feed her and to hopefully get her some fluids. We spent an hour and a half with her. You see, I'd spent a lot of time and I'd seen a lot of pictures of starving children in the world, but for the first time I was holding one of my own. This little girl had skin stretched across her ribs with a bloated belly filled with worms. She was 3.5 years old and weighed 15 pounds. After an hour and a half, we had to take this little girl back to her orphanage. And as I held her, I experienced the sickest feeling of my life. As I had to take this little child, extend my hands, and hand her back to an orphanage director that wasn't taking care of her. Everything within me said, don't let her go, but I knew I had to. And from the moment I put my hands out, I was sick to my stomach. For the next 10 days, I was nauseous. I couldn't get that little girl out of my head. I prayed for her day and night that she would have another day, knowing how close she was to death, knowing that she was sleeping on a cement floor with rats running around her, and not knowing when she'd have her next meal. For the next month, I couldn't get her out of my head. And through a divine providence, a door opened up for me to go back down to Haiti within a month. I went back down for a weekend. I'm a guy that didn't own a passport 2 months earlier. But I went down because I knew there were some doctors going down, and hopefully we could help that little girl. At this point, I wasn't committing to anything. I said, Lord, I don't know where this is going, but it better be really clear. It was on that trip that little girl, whose name I didn't even know yet, I was convinced that she was my daughter. I found out her name was Jaline. And just about the time I'm getting my head around this reality, I'm at her old orphanage, and the local missions director brings this little girl up to me and says, Todd, this is her sister. And I said, what? And my heart sank. And I literally thought to myself, I don't think I want to know that. And I said, Lord, I'm just getting my head around one. And I have no idea how this is going to happen. And I'm willing to step out in faith, but this is crazy. The reality is I didn't know what to do about that. I sat in the Port-au-Prince airport with tears streaming down my face, typing a letter to my wife. Honey, I know you've never met her, but I'm convinced this little girl, Jaline, is our daughter. There's no way I could say it out loud. I had to write it. And by the way, she has a sister. And I said, I don't know what to do about that, but I know this little girl, Jaline, needs help now, and she's going to die if we don't do something. We started an adoption process that everybody told us, so many people told us to give up on. People told us don't even start. They said it's going to take too long. Haiti's impossible. I had adoption agencies tell me, try another country. I said, and I want to scream at them. I'm like, you don't understand. My daughter is starving in Haiti. I'm not trying another country. She's coming home. And we're going to find a way to make that happen. That took 2.5 years, tens of thousands of dollars. The most grueling experience of my life. But I do it all again tomorrow. 6 months later, my wife and I came to the realization that there's no way we would ever let her sister grow up in that orphanage without her. That those two sisters would ever grow up apart. And 10 months ago, they came home. My family's gotten a little bit bigger. They've transformed our lives. The sadness has turned to joy. The sickness has turned to health. The transformation has been unbelievable. The impact that it's had upon my family, my biological kids, have been amazing. And I've often believed that the story of my Jolene was far bigger than her. The fact that I have the opportunity to talk to you today is testament to that. I believe that her story will change lives for years to come. But I never forget the reality that those kids that she grew up with, her friends from that orphanage, are still there struggling to survive today. And that inspires me to continue to move. I brought that story home, and I brought those realities of Haiti home to my students. And we've been blessed to be able to take 5 teams of students to Haiti over the past 3.5 years. Public high school kids, it's not a school trip. We open an avenue and doors for kids that have a heart to serve. It's been amazing to see the impact it's had upon our kids. It's amazing to see the impact that it's had upon our community. As these kids are willing to stretch, when we go down there, I tell them, this trip is never going to be about you. It's never going to be about me. We're not going there to fix anybody. We're going to serve with selfless hearts. And we're going to do anything we're asked to do. And we're going to be on a mission with people that when we're there. But it's been amazing to see how those experiences have impacted my kids. Whatever we've done for the Haitian people and the different projects we've been involved in, it's always affected our kids so much more deeply. They see a joy in the Haitian people that so contradicts the world that they live in every day. They come from a world where they have all these different things, yet they look at these people who have nothing according to the standards of our world, and they say, why is that? Is it that we're about the wrong things? Is it our hearts are in the wrong places? They see a faith in a people that goes so much deeper than what they experience because they live in a world where they have the education, they have the means, they have the opportunity to fix things. And in the Haitian people, they see a depth of faith that they long for. Those have been amazing experiences. My kids come home with heavy hearts. When they come home, the question that everybody asks is, how was Haiti? I kind of hate that question because people expect you to say it was good, it was great, it was fun. And they want to walk away. And you want to say, whoa, hold on, do you want to know? Because it's going to take some time. Because it rocked my world and flipped everything I know upside down. And I can't ever walk away from the realities of what I experienced there. And honestly, my heart's broken and I don't know what to do about it right now. And they come home and they have a message, and I tell them, be careful, because people aren't going to understand if they haven't experienced themselves. Some of our kids cynically, before our teams go, will ask the question, are you going to be like those Haiti kids? Are you going to come back changed? Yes. Yes, I'm going to come back changed. I can't help but do it. I can't help but understand that I live in a world of excess. And all the things that everybody's concerned about here, that excess, we don't have to sell everything, but that excess could change lives. It could save lives. But the hearts of our kids, when they come home, they continue to move and they say, what do we do? And how do we help? And over the past 4 years, our kids have raised over $100,000. They built 4 homes in Haiti. They've packed and sent hundreds of thousands of meals to Haitian children. They planted trees. They took the kids that were sleeping in my daughter's old orphanage off the floor with rats running around them, off that cement floor, and put them in beds of their own. And they've given them clean water. Public school kids changing lives and living lives of purpose. Now you would think, after 15 trips to Haiti, that my perspective couldn't change. But 6 weeks ago, I returned from my 16th trip to Haiti, and my world got rocked again. I went to one of the most remote regions of Haiti, a region called Balance that suffers some of the worst malnutrition in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. It's so remote that after you get off the motorcycle in the Haitian tap-tap, you have to get on a little boat with a little outboard motor and go 2 hours by sea to Balance. Now that's a sketchy boat ride when the sea is calm. But when we came back from that journey to Balance, we were in that same little boat, only this time the waves got to 10 to 15 feet high. Yeah, I wasn't sure we were going to make it. And I sat in that boat and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And through our 2.5-year adoption process, one of the things I learned is sometimes that's all you can do. And oftentimes it's the best thing you can do. Ironically, I thought back to a conversation I had just a few nights earlier in Belance with some of my friends from Reimagine Haiti, the only organization working on the ground in this very remote area of Haiti, despite all the different groups that work in other areas of this country. And I said, I don't know if you know, but JFK used to have a plaque on his desk. It said, "Oh God, thy sea is so great, and my boat is so small." I never knew how profound those words would be. I said, there are going to be times where you're in here and you're going to feel like you're going to capsize because you've got malnutrition, you've got people that don't have any clean water, they've got no health care, they've got all these issues, and you're going to feel like you're going to flip and you're overwhelmed. But don't you ever give up, because you're changing lives, and every day you're saving lives. No matter what, you never give up. Now, as I sat in that boat, in this water, I'll be honest, I wished I was in a bigger boat. I think that's true of all of us. I think that's true of all of us in our lives. We spend so much time pursuing that education, pursuing the right internship, climbing the corporate ladder, opening doors so we can get more comfortable, so we can be a little safer, trying to secure that big boat. But the reality is sometimes in pursuing that big boat, we miss a purpose in life that will gnaw at our hearts for a lifetime. One of the saddest things I see as people get older is oftentimes there's an emptiness. They come to this question of, what have I been about? Have I had a lasting impact? Have I lived a life of purpose? And they look back and they can't change it. I'm inspired by my kids as they continue to move. But that life in that little boat for 4 years for me has been amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. In that little boat, you see a world that you'd never see any other way. You have the ability to bring change like you can never bring in that big boat. It was that little boat that took me to Belance, this region that rocked my world. We had to take a boat so that we could then hike up the mountain, and we got up to this remote mountain village. And we got up to this remote mountain village. We saw a family that had sadness in their eyes, and the question for them was, what's wrong? And they said, we buried our 2-year-old daughter this morning. The fresh mound of dirt with that little child buried underneath it was sitting right next to us. We asked them what happened. They said she had a cough. The reality is we'll never know if it was a cough, if it was tuberculosis, or if it was the polluted water that they drink. But the reality is their child's dead. When you ask them, where do you go for help when somebody needs help? They say nowhere. There's nowhere to go. That's their normal. As I left that village with tears streaming down my face and walked another 2.5 hours up the mountain to an even more remote village, we got to a village that no foreigners had ever been to before. And we asked them, what's your biggest need? They said water. Not clean water. Water. Their reality is that in the last 2 months, 2 children have died falling off a cliff to get their family's water. Because their normal is that the kids have to scale the face of a cliff to go down into a cave to bring water back up the face of the mountain so that their family has water. That's their reality. When you ask them, how often does this happen? They say too often to count. It was in that same village that we nearly got stranded that night as the darkness started to set and we started to run low on water. We had a long journey back. The village elder sent a kid up a tree to get us coconuts. He handed each one of us a coconut and said, here, you will need this for your journey back. People that have nothing shared what little they had and prayed with us before we left. And that rocks my world, knowing the realities and the contrast between the excesses we have and how willing we are to give up the things that we have versus what little they'll give when they live such desperate lives. When my kids come home from their trips, their hearts are always full, and so many of them just want to go and serve in Haiti. I said, for some of you, that's your future. But for some of you, your future is going and becoming a doctor or becoming a nurse or becoming an engineer or pursuing that degree and using the gifts that you've been given to change lives from home. Because sometimes you can have a bigger impact from home. For some of you, you have the opportunity, you have the connections, you have the resources to change lives for those children. My question for you today is, will you use the gifts you've been given to live lives of purpose, to change lives, to be other-centered, and change your world? Because these precious children desperately need your help, and you have been blessed, and you have incredible gifts that you can share. Thank you.